Love the sound of Supercar Thunder at Tailem Bend. It's a dry track by comparison to yesterday. It's a Shell V Power Racing drag race to turn one, and they are absolutely locked together on the run to one. It's a big, long run too, so plenty of chances to decide where you want to place the car. David Reynolds pops out of nowhere looking for space. And side by side, Davison and De Pasquale, one of them is going to have to yield. There was a tiny little touch-up, and Anton ends up climbing into the lead. Slade's got his nose in here as well.
That was a beautiful piece of driving by the two Shell V-Power guys. They got around there really nicely. There was the slightest little touch. And you see Andre Heimgartner now trying to position himself down the inside of Slade. Slade's in the mulga, and Waters is gone.
It was Mostert and Waters that made contact as a result of Slade. So Slade ended up in the dirt, and Mostert and Waters have got together again. It's a secondary impact, and there's big damage on the right rear of the Monster Energy car. That's unbelievable.
Championship changer for Waters. We know he's in contention.
So Tim got onto the grass. He ended up getting muscled out because Andre was blazing on through. And then when Chaz checked up, he went straight across and into Cam. So that's going to make for some lively scenes in these garages as we try and work it all out. And outside the combox window, the whole right rear corner of that car is now completely flying apart. So for Waters, it'll be back into the lane. Macaulay Jones as well. And they're not going to turn that car around in a hurry.
So we were talking about that left-hand front hanging out of Mostert's car also. So we were talking pre-race about the history with those two guys. It didn't really come from a straight-up battle with them. It come from the circumstances around Heimgartner and Slade. Heimgartner now putting pressure on. He's actually got a good run here too. He's got a really good run on Will Davison. Can he get the toe and sneak himself down the inside? So going to be a fleet of cars in the pit lane in a second. Waters, lock up for Davison. Is he running wide? He locked the left-hand front, which is unusual to lock the loaded side front. As he was trying to get it to the right, you can see that witness mark on the road there. And there's Cam Waters coming in with the right-hand rear. Substantial damage to the Monster Mustang. Who got him? Because was it Reynolds who got him? Someone turned Percat around.
That was teammates.
Oh, lock up for De Pasquale. Is he stayed on? He's run very, very wide. He's off. Totally off the road for De Pasquale. That was his own mistake. He'll be angry with himself from that mistake. And Courtney was able to get by Heimgartner. This will create a run for Will Davison now.
He did a very good job, De Pasquale, of rescuing that. He tried as much as he could to release that brake, to not put a flat spot on the tyre, and he let the car run all the way around the edge without ending up in the gravel. He only barely got away with it by the skin of his teeth.
So rears for Whincup. So there's the differing strategies between the teams. Shane Van Gisbergen just did his fastest lap of the race in the previous lap. So he's continuing to go faster and faster, 50.8. Still a fair way from the ultimate pace that not only Chaz Mostert did with 50.2, so he's done that for points essentially. There's Bruce Stewart looking on. He'd be disappointed with the drama on the opening lap because Chaz and Cam Waters are both heavily in contention. Their consistency's been very good. They've had good qualifying performances and good speed through the races so far this year. But the deal there for Van Gisbergen still interests me, Neil, because when you've done a 50.8 and he keeps on going faster and faster, it's still not really in the realm of the 50.5s that a lot of the others have done. So it's a couple of tenths away, isn't it?
Randall's having a think about it. This is a battle for 7th. 5 laps to go. Here we are with Van Gisbergen. And that time through, the margin from Shane to the race lead's 1.5 seconds. 5 laps to go is the equation, and that's officially 1 second to Will Davison. So right there, here's your podium. We're looking at it, 1, 2 and 3. But I wouldn't bet on the order just at the moment. Oops, Jack Smith, SCT Logistics entry off the road. It's going to be pretty wet out there because we had quite a bit of rain yesterday. So tricky conditions to be able to get back on that racetrack. I've seen a few people wide this weekend and getting out into the grass. So that margin from first to third at the moment is now down to 1.1 seconds, and it's half a second between Will Davison and Shane Van Gisbergen. I called it 1 second not long ago. So he's on him now.
It's Hazelwood off the road. Damage on the back for the Brett Jones Racing Commodore. Now that might have been contact. Yeah, there's a fair bit of chat on the radio there. Yeah,
I reckon that run into 6 might be the only weak spot that Will's got on the racetrack, because I think he's a little weaker than his own teammate there as well. So this explains what had happened with Todd Hazelwood and Fabian Coulthard. They've interlocked down there on the run to turn 3. Nick Percat was just in front.
Will's a little inviting in terms of his line to there. It's a little bit like Siberia at Phillip Island. There's a couple of different techniques the drivers use to get the car turned at that particular corner. And Will was quite wide and high on the way in. He wouldn't want to have done that if Van Gisbergen was right behind him, because Shane would have capitalised.
He has been good on the run down the hill. So Davison's been strong through 7, 8, 9, 10. In fact, all of this stuff at the bottom end of the circuit, he's been pretty good. So where he's looked a little vulnerable in and around 6, he's been able to take a bit of the pressure away in the next chunk of the track.
So can Anton De Pasquale win Ford's 400th race? Win. What a day for the young bloke. His first pole position. He then backed it up with another pole position. So from a career perspective, this is a sensational day for Anton De Pasquale.
Beautiful drive today. He survived all the craziness right at the beginning. He lines it up with 1 corner to run now. He's got enough of a cushion to not rush at the final corner. He has tasted victory before, but this one's going to be sweet. His first ever win for Shell V-Power Racing, Anton De Pasquale.
Thank you.
Second goes to Will Davison. A fighting third and a climb back through the field for Shane Van Gisbergen in third. James Courtney,
Well done.
really solid job in 4th. Brody Kostecki 5th. There'll be a lot of chat in the pit lane after this as to who did what to who and how. But right now the focus will be down there at the Shell V-Power Racing team on their achievement for a 1-2 today. It's Richard Harris, the engineer for Will Davison. Ludo Lacroix, the engineer for Anton. Ryan Story is here this weekend after an absence from the racetrack for an extended period. So a nice moment for those guys.
And Will drove up alongside Anton, and they waved at each other, exchanged compliments, because for this team, for a 1-2 and the performance that this team have had at this location, exceptional. A couple of other notable performances, Neil. Brody Kostecki in 5th, Bryce Forward, good job in 6th. Heimgartner, who got caught up in all that drama early, but Thomas Randall in 8th as a wildcard result. Very, very strong.
Really impressive, isn't it? So nice to see Bryce Forward bouncing back after the tough run that he had in Tasmania, where there was a little bit of self-doubt at the end of that one. Let's confirm the results for you unofficially. Nearly a second was the margin in the end between Anton and Will, the teammates. 1-2 for Shell V-Power Racing. Shane Van Gisbergen climbing up through the field, making a big chunk of time and pace. Well done getting on the podium. James Courtney, Brody Kostecki, Bryce Forward, Andre Heimgartner in those wars early on. Then Thomas Randall, that's an outstanding job from Mark Winterbottom and Scott Pye, Team 18 cars, 9th and 10th. And then just outside, Jamie Whincup, Jack LeBrock, Will Brown, who had that grid penalty, Gary Jacobson, Slade, who was in the wars on that opening lap, Kostecki, Percat, Jake Kostecki, Todd Hazelwood, we saw in trouble right at the back end, Zane Goddard, and then further behind him, Jack Smith. Fabian Coulthard, David Reynolds' car was wounded, and then Mostert, Waters and Jones all had trauma on that opening lap. Put them out of business, unfortunately. So that's going to have a really big impact on the championship.